Hello and welcome to the final tutorial for our haze scene. Today we want to discuss elements to bring atmosphere to the scene. We will discuss the volume cube and the 3 spotlights. And we look at the main floor with its 2 particle systems. In the foreground you can see little rocks and ash particles rising to the top. We start with the volume cube. The cube includes the entire scene. In this case 1000 meters in x direction and 1500 meters in y and z direction. I didn't apply the scale to lower the density of the volume even further. Over the cube and out of the camera field of view there are 3 spotlights with strength 10 megawatt. The strength must be that high because our scene is that large. Lower strength values were not visible. The purpose of the spotlight is to reveal the shape of the black pillars to the viewer. With the light cone in the background, the pillars look even more threatening. Let's take a look at the volume shader. I call it the shader of shame because the shader does almost nothing. Instead, a single volume scatter node with density 0.0016 has nearly the same effect. The intention of the shader was to create a dark area in the center and normal dust in the rest of the scene. The anisotropy value 0 in the lower volume scatter node means the light is scattered in all directions. The value 1 means light is scattered only in the same direction as the light rays, not backwards. The z value of the object coordinates increases the density as we get higher. The noise texture and the color ramp add variation to the density. I reduced the color ramp with a white slider to gray. To lower the density further, I added another color ramp. The color of the white slider is almost black. For the dark parts in the center, I used the object coordinates again with a gradient texture quadratic sphere. With the vector add operation, the sphere is shifted backwards and the vector multiply operation scales it up. The density is tweaked with the color ramp and the result looked like this. I used a second sphere and scaled it in x direction to cover the side of our main floor. The math node add combines the 2 spheres. The 2 volume scatter nodes are combined with an add shader. Next we deal with the particle systems for the rocks. To create some rocks, go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons and activate the add-on Extra Objects. In the Add menu, under the label Mesh, we have the new option Rock Generator. In the option menu, set the deform to 1, roughness to 2, detail level and display level to 2. I set the number of rocks to 4. When you select any object in the scene, Blender instantiates the rocks. I wanted the rocks only in the foreground, so I selected these quads and add them to the vertex group rocks. Switch to the particle settings. For the rocks, I wanted a hair particle system with the option Advanced. Try and error result in 3000 rocks. Activate rotation and set the phase to 0.19 and under force Brownian to 0.01. In the render settings, I chose render as collection. I put all rocks into one collection. The scale and the scale randomness are 0.1. These values depend on the size of your rocks. Don't forget to activate Show Emitter because we want to render the main floor as well. The instance collection is the collection of our rocks and the object scale is checked. Under Vertex Group, we insert the Vertex Group rocks for the density. I created another collection for the ash particles. The particles are simple planes with one subdivision. I randomized the Z position of some corners. I used a simple shader. The UV coordinates are translated by -0.5 in x and y direction. I used a gradient texture with the option Sphere and tweaked the value with the color ramp. The black slider controls the size of a circle. The black areas became transparent and the white areas became gray. In the particle settings, the most options are locked because I baked the particle system. A baked system can be resumed from the same state when you continue rendering on another day. I hope you can still follow. The number of particles is only 100 because I don't want to overload the foreground. The animation starts at -200 and ends at +200. The lifetime of the particles is 500 frames. These values ensure that the particles are already generated before the first frame of the animation, in this case frame 1. The velocity is 5 meters per second. This value depends on the size of your scene. The randomized rotation is 0.3, the phase is 0.5 and the randomized phase is 0.05. Angular velocity is 0.2 and Brownian is 0.05. I think that is the default. Again, we render as collection and scale is 0.5. Also don't forget to activate show emitter in this particle system. The instance collection is the collection with the ash particles and check object scale. Reduce the gravity to 0 because the ash particles should only rise. For this particle emitter I also use the vertex group rocks in density because I want the particles only in the foreground. I forgot to mention that the particles are constantly rotating. The rotation is also applied to all instance particles. We find the last setting in the compositor. I added a glare node with fog low and quality high. The threshold is 1.5 and the size is 9. This makes the highlight in the lava falls and the lava cracks more interesting. That was the last tutorial for the hell scene. Now you can create your own hell scene in Blender. And see you in the next video.